Hi, I'm Chad, and this is my Animar Soul of Elements Sliver Commander deck. So here he is, Animar Soul of Elements. Now you might be asking why I'm using a non-sliver creature as a general in a sliver deck. Well, Animar is just amazing with slivers. And I didn't really want to do a standard 5-color sliver deck. I have a 5-color deck already, and I didn't need another one. Plus, you just see those all the time. 5-color sliver decks with Sliver Queen or whatnot. And I just wanted something a little bit different. I got the idea from the forums over at MTG Salvation, and I couldn't be happier with the results. So, Animar, he's just amazing. He's got Pro White and Black, so he sticks around for a while. He's hard to remove. And then whenever you cast a creature, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and for every counter that he has, your creatures cost 1 less to cast. So in a sliver deck, as you can imagine, you're always casting creatures, and as a result, he's constantly getting bigger. As he does, your creatures get cheaper and cheaper to cast, which means he gets bigger and bigger faster. And then additionally, by the end of it, your slivers are costing you one colored mana to cast, and it just gets to insane levels. Command Tower, real quick about this, I just want to say that if you haven't gotten the Commander products that WotC put out, they're among my favorite purchases in the last year. You get Command Tower, you get Soul Ring, you get a bunch of other relevant cards, and for Command Tower specifically, if you're running multiple colors, you should have a Command Tower in your deck. Homeward Path, you can imagine the devastation if someone were to insurrection my slivers and attack me with them. So Homeward Path lets me get those guys back at instant speed before they can attack me. It's pretty amazing. Reliquary Tower, if you're drawing cards, you want to be able to manipulate your hand size, and I find this a much better choice than some of the artifact options that you have. It's harder to remove. Rupture Spire, just more multiple colored mana. Dual lands, Kazandu Refuge and Rootbound Crag. Raging Ravine, I like to have a manland in the deck to fight against wrath effects, and Raging Ravine is the one that fits this deck. Misty Rainforest, sack lands, so Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarn. Gruul Turf, Izzet Boilerworks, and Simic Growth Chamber are the bounce lands that I have. And then the Vivid lands, Vivid Crag, Vivid Creek, and Vivid Grove. And then basic lands, islands, mountains, and forests, of course, and onto spells. So Berserk is one of my favorite all-time spells. I recently reacquired it, and I'm just waiting for the chance to get in for the win with a massive Berserk. So I'm looking forward to casting that. Haven't had the chance to yet, but I really want to. Counterspell. I try and keep one hard counter in any deck that has blue. I don't really like to run control, so I don't run lots of counterspells, but I want to have at least one as a fallback if somebody has something getting ready to go off to win the game or make me lose the game. Comet Storm, great instant speed, X removal. It's great early game to get rid of a key component, or it's great late game if you have a lot of mana to really take out a lot of opponents' creatures, or even an opponent themselves. Beast Within, another great instant speed removal for any permanent, so that's got to be in there. Blue Sun Zenith, instant speed card draw is good. Triple lose hard unless you're running lots of fixing and ramp. Speaking of which, here's Cultivate and Explosive Vegetation. Reap and Sow is also ramp, but if you entwine it or pick that mode, then you can destroy a land as well. And also relevant when you're searching for your land, it's any land, not just basic lands, and it comes into play, not into play tapped. Green Sun Zenith, tutor for green, and in this deck there's lots of green creatures, so it's very relevant. Wheel of Fortune, one of my favorite card draw spells, especially if your opponents have full hands that they've been sculpting and your hand's empty. Mass Polymorph, just a fun card in the deck for me. I haven't had the ability or the chance to use it yet, but I want to be able to cast it and get, full board of slivers transformed into another board of slivers. So I just think that'd be a lot of fun. Regrowth, Graveyard Recursion, Praetor's Council, kind of the ultimate graveyard recursion. And I didn't really realize how good this card was until recently when an opponent had half my library in the graveyard. I was able to cast this, and I won the game shortly after. Leyline of Anticipation is amazing in this deck. Basically every sliver becomes a combat trick, and that's well worth it, especially if you can get it in your opening hand. Lurking Predators, one of those ones that helps you whenever your opponents cast spells. In this case, I get to look at the top card of my library, and if it's a creature, it comes directly into play, or onto the battlefield, however you want to word it. It's been a very good card in this deck. Mana Reflection. I run this over Mana Flare, primarily because I got sick of my opponents using the ability for Mana Flare and then killing it before I got the chance to use it. So, also relevant, it's for any permanent, not just lands, and it produces twice as much mana, not just one additional. So that's pretty much better than the Mana Flare. It costs more, but it's worth it. Wild Pair, amazing card in Sliver deck. Most Slivers have similar power toughness levels, so whenever you cast one, you get to just go find a matching one, and it's been pretty amazing. Basilisk Collar. Equipping this thing up on little creatures especially is pretty devastating. Nobody wants to attack you. They don't want that death touch to take effect. And lifelink is fairly relevant as well. Rune Stalactite. Since this is not a pure Sliver deck, there are non-Sliver creatures, and the commander is not a Sliver. Rune Stalactite's pretty important in this deck. I can turn any of my non-Slivers into Slivers. I find it as a good additional bonus is if my opponents are running some kind of tribal, then this gets those bonuses as well. Skull Clamp. Everybody knows Skull Clamp. Great on little creatures, but I've also found it to be a good deterrent against attacking big creatures or removing big creatures. If I put it on my commander, nobody wants to kill him because they don't want me to draw those cards, at least when he's still weak. But if he gets powerful, then of course usually they take him out if they can. Soul Ring, of course, another benefit of the commander products. I had tons of Soul Rings back in the day, but regretfully I sold them all. Thankfully for the commander products, I was able to get them back. So that's and those should definitely go in most decks. Lightning Greaves, more protection for any creatures, really. And then Coat of Arms, kind of a must-have in any tribal deck. You just want to be careful if your opponents are running tribal as well, because their creatures will get those bonuses too. A few Planeswalkers. Chandra the Firebrand, primarily in there for the copying effect, but her removal can be relevant as well. Garruk Wildspeaker in there for the land untapping, but the overrun effect is amazing in a Swarm deck. Garruk Primal Hunter, primarily in there for the card draw. Fauna Shaman, more green, or more tutors for creatures, and that's what you want to be doing in this deck, is tutoring for creatures. Fogbank, the deck has a little bit of problems with flyers, so I wanted a cheap flying defender in the deck, and this is one of the better ones that fits the colors. If I had white, of course, I'd probably do Wall of Denial, but I don't have that option, so Fogbank is it, and it's proven to be pretty good. Nin the Pain Artist can be pretty amazing for card draw, but also for removal, and then you pair it up with Basilisk Collar and give her Death Touch, and you can take out any creature with one point of damage, and then your opponents only get to draw one card. So, but you can also ping your own guys if you don't have the Basilisk Collar on it. Hit your own guys for a couple, keep them alive, but still get yourself some card draw. Adaptive Automaton, just a Lord, but again, if your opponents are running tribal of some kind, you can choose it to be that type and get that bonus if you want to, so that's pretty good if you need that at the time. Speaking of needing things at the time, Phyrexian Metamorph, one of the best creatures in Magic, period, at this point in time. It's just so versatile that it's insane. If you need it to be the best creature on the board, it can be the best creature on the board. If you need it to be a mana rock, then it can be a mana rock. So I've actually seen it turn a game around for somebody because they copied a Darksteel Ingot when they needed that really bad. Solemn Simulacrum, more value. Not much to say there. If you have them, run them. Riku of Two Reflections, copying spells is great. Copying creatures is insane, especially when they're slivers, so that's why he's in there. Seedborn Muse, amazing card. Not much to say there. You just get to untap during every other player's untap step, and it's an insane effect. Urabrask the Hidden, primarily there for the haste. Sure, the opponent's downside part of the card is pretty insane for me as well, but I've kind of found with the Praetors that I don't like playing them. Urabrask is like the least of the offensive, so he's the only one left in the deck. And he might come out at some point too, I don't know. I just haven't had fun with the Praetors, so he might come out. Another creature that most people tend not to like playing against, Consecrated Sphinx. It's just an amazing card, and like I said, the deck has problems with flyers, so I wanted a way to combat that, and what better way than to draw 2 cards while you're doing it. Primeval Titan, just an amazing ramp card, and you want to have him if you have the option to. Ulamog, when you're generating lots of mana like this deck does, why not have a Eldrazi Titan in the deck? I would probably run Kozilek as well if I had him for the card draw, but Ulamog's removal is pretty great, and the Annihilator 4 is nothing to laugh at, so that's great in there. Now onto the slivers. First batch of slivers is all the power and toughness boosters. So Muscle Sliver +1/+1, Blade Sliver +1/+0. Bone Splitter Sliver +2/+0. Fungus Sliver gives +1/+1 counters for damage. So that's in the same vein. Magma Sliver is tapped to give +X/+0, where X is the number of slivers. Really insane card, especially if you can pair it up with something like Vigilance. Attacking with everybody, the one that gets through you leave untapped, and all the others you tap to give that one that got through +X/+0. I've actually blown people out with that. Might Sliver +2/+2. Now onto the ones that give kind of evasion type abilities. Heart Sliver gives haste. Hunter Sliver gives provoke, so you can kind of determine how the defending players block you. Spinneret Sliver lets me block flyers, again to help against the flying problem of the deck. Wing Sliver, of course, gives all slivers flying. And then Firewake Sliver is primarily there for the haste, but the sack ability for +2/+2 is not too bad. You don't really want to be sacking your slivers, but if you have to, you have to. Horned Sliver gives trample. Root Slivers stops your slivers from being countered, so if you're playing against a blue deck. Shifting Sliver, your slivers can't be blocked except by slivers. The only problem you run into there is if your opponents are running changelings, but I haven't found it to be too much of a problem. Synchronous Sliver gives vigilance, which is amazing, and Fury Sliver gives double strike, which is insane. Now onto the other kind of random abilities. Gemhide Sliver turns all your slivers into Birds of Paradise, which can be awesome. Quick Sliver gives them all flash. Humming Sliver gives sliver cycling, so if you've got plenty on the board, you can start pitching them and drawing new cards. Telekinetic Sliver lets you tap down opponents' permanents. You can clear yourself a path or stop somebody from attacking you. Brute Sliver makes tokens. I'm a huge token fanatic, so I like those. Cyanide Sliver removal, especially if you can boost up your toughness, then they'll do the damage without killing themselves, which can be pretty cool. And then Synapse Sliver lets you draw cards for dealing damage. Thanks for watching CMDR decks. Please subscribe and favorite.